So ever since Trump announced his plan for Gaza, I'm seeing a lot of conflicting narratives online and a lot of confusion about what we do going forward in this post-war era. And this is precisely this question that I want to answer for you in a very, very, very simple way. It is one problem, it is one solution. Our problem is that we do not have a universal moral compass. Okay, one more time. We do not have a universal moral compass. And it is in this space of moral ambiguity, of moral confusion, that the worst of the worst has found a way to thrive. It is in our moral confusion. Let me explain to you what I mean. After Nazi Germany, the solution was very simple. It was de-radicalization. And yes, that meant changing the education system. Yes, that meant changing the culture. Yes, that meant changing the economy. Yes, that meant changing the street names. Yes, that meant banning every form of Nazi memorabilia and insignia and any semblance of Nazi ideology. But much, much more than that. There was a universal display of moral clarity. That moral clarity looked like the Nuremberg trials. The Nuremberg trials displayed at an international level the consequence for Nazism, making it so that nobody wants to be Nazis again. It is that simple. Did you watch the Nuremberg trials? Did you see them squirm as they had to listen? As they had to watch and listen to the crimes that they themselves had committed and felt so uncomfortable to be confronted with? That's how you deter Nazis. You show a universal moral through thread that says, regardless of who you are, where you're from, or what you want to do in this life, you cannot be a Nazi. If you want to be a Nazi, try. Find out. Find out. You know what we've failed to do in this era? Set the fucking tone. What's the tone for jihadists? Pray tell, what is the tone? Because the only thing I've seen for jihadists is incentive, is reward. This isn't the Nuremberg trials. These are the Nuremberg rewards. You commit terrorism, you get billions of dollars. What's the consequence? What's the consequence for jihad in our morally confused world? You cannot assert the consequence because you're afraid of appearing racist. Imagine saying, I don't know if we can denazify Germany because it might just seem like we're racist towards Germans. No, baby girl. No, girly pop. No, it doesn't. You want to find out if this is about racism towards Germans? Watch the trials. Because we lack a universal moral compass, jihadism is not only not deterred, it is rewarded. You have the UN. The UN was formed in the wake of World War II to ensure that doesn't happen again. What has the UN done? What has the UN done except 9 out of 19 of its accused members of one of its agencies was found to have participated in October 7? What has the UN done except invite the Islamic regime of terrorists in Iran to chair its Human Rights Council and Forum for Disarmament? What has the UN done except appoint Putin's Russia and China's CCP to the Security Council to veto any persecution against the Islamic regime in Iran? What has the UN done? What we have today in our morally confused world is feckless representatives, feckless agencies, feckless organizations. Where is the ICC's prosecution of jihadist terrorism? Oh, I forgot. You can't prosecute the jihadists because they're technically not a state. Well, isn't that convenient? Why not just give them an incentive to reject a state over and over and over again, and then you can't prosecute them because they're not a state? This is a reward system. This is not a consequence system for jihadism. And then you sit and you wonder, why do we have jihadists? Because you have been rewarding them. You tried diplomacy, did you not? Did you not try to give $150 billion to the regime? Where did your diplomacy get you? Where did your appeasement to jihadists get you? Is it not time to try something new? Is it not time to look back at your failed policies and regroup and rethink? So you want a solution? Here's your solution. Where is your international court of anti-jihad? You had the Nuremberg trials. Where are the jihadist trials? Where are the jihadist trials? And if the jihadists have been killed, try them in absentia. Set the tone, set the moral tone, and the jihadists will go away when every single act of jihad, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's in the West, anywhere that it threatens us, is met with the maximum punishment. And if you kill yourself as part of your act of jihad, your whole tribe gets tried. How about that? How about that for disincentivization? Where is the show of universal moral clarity? So you want to know how you end jihadism? It is simple. Get yourselves together. You feckless representatives, you feckless organizations, you feckless international courts. Figure it out. We do not live in a safe world so long as Nazis have power. We do not live in a safe world so long as jihadists have power. We denazified after World War II. You know what it's time to do? De-jihadify. You know what this reminds me of?
My name is Gülcan Bey. I'm a citizen of Sweden. If you are watching this video, I have been abducted and taken against my will by Israeli forces. Please tell my government to demand my and the others' immediate release.
It reminds me of this.
Crazy to say because we're on an Ivy League campus, but this is like basic humanitarian aid we're asking for. Like, could people please have a glass of water?
What do these two things have in common? I will tell you. They are both performing the suffering of terror and war. One is performing being the victim of war, living in encampments and needing humanitarian aid, just like the Palestinians. The other is performing being a victim of hostage taking, needing a foreign government to secure their release, just like the Israelis. Why? Because we have glamorized the experience of suffering. We have glamorized war and terrorism. We have glamorized abduction and kidnap. We have glamorized death. At one time, the thing that everybody wanted to be was high society. It was about being elite. It was about appearing like you had wealth, like you had money. People were buying fake Gucci belts. And then it flipped. The thing to be when people developed consciousness, awareness, was somebody who understands the suffering and persecution of other people. And then suffering became a thing through which to extract validation. And so for the underdeveloped ego, being a warrior for the oppressed was the new high society. That became the new fake Gucci belt. And you know how you can be sure that it's a performance? By the fact that there was no aid being carried on that ship. What was being carried was margarita mixes. What was on the ship was empty condom wrappers. And they admitted that there was no aid. What they explained was that this was all symbolism. Symbolic of what exactly? Symbolic of sailing right past about 50 million people suffering from humanitarian crises and food insecurity, going straight to the place where the highest yield of moral currency can be found. They don't sail anywhere where they can't exploit suffering to appear heroic. Stop, I'm not a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm not I'm not a hero. Am I? And then you say, okay, well, even if they are performing, no harm done, right? You know what the harm is? The harm is that war and terror are real things. These are real people. These are not avatars. We don't need to prolong war and suffering so that the Western underdeveloped ego can take moral selfies while wearing its new fake Gucci belt, which is a keffiyeh and a flotilla. Navigating selective humanity.